Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Storytime with Bucho. No, you are not having a hallucination. I am giving you a double feature today. I wanted to get on this and try to get as many videos out as possible for the month of October, particularly because this one out of my third collection is the title piece called Under a Black Rainbow. It is certainly one of the weirder pieces that I've written. I think if you were to ask me where it came from, I wouldn't really know. I could probably have some ideas, but I really like the imagery in it. I like what's being inferred in it, even if I don't know exactly what's happening, which is, that happens sometimes. It's pretty dark. I know it's been heavily influenced by some of Tool's previous videos, so if that feels familiar, that's probably why. Yeah, I'm very happy with this piece. It's a short one, it's quick, and it's very specific in its detail, so I hope you enjoy. There is a long and quiet period where he sits on the edge of the bed in the dim light of the bedside lamp. A knife, gilded in tarnished silver and dirtied bronze, sits beside him on the comforter. Starlight outside has flickered on, blinked into existence slowly in the hours since he put the dinner dishes away. Now the insects have come to make noise outside his windows until their voices suddenly stop, most likely finding themselves in the jaws of an airborne predator. This will continue all night. It's not the noise, but the sudden silence that bothers him. Every night before he falls deep into sleep, he will undress. He'll remove his shirt first, slipping it up and over his shoulders and head, tossing it into the laundry basket hidden behind the closet door. The clink of an unbuckled belt comes next, the swish of it sliding out from belt loops before being coiled up in his hands and put back into the dresser. He will unclasp his slacks, unzip them, slide them to the floor, and kick them toward the closet. Each sock will get removed and tossed into the crumpled pants nearby. Dress shirt and underwear come last. This is the process. This is the nightly ritual. The stripping off of clothing is the stripping off of the day, a necessary removal before allowing the next day to take over. He will spend an hour standing before the bedroom mirror, examining the litany of scars he has acquired over the years. He will run his fingers over those that seem to have changed in the last day, though his rational brain knows that none of them have. They've all remained the same since the day they stopped their scarring. There are those that pockmark his chest and those that line the atrophying musculature of his arms, the tough red tissue like warning signs scattered across his dermis. Don't touch. No entry. Stop. There is the wilting of powerful legs into stems full of wobble and shake, though they continue to keep him upright. There are fewer scars here, fewer visible marks to point to and say, this happened where, that happened when. His legs hide more than they reveal, and for that he is grateful, though he can still, with disturbing accuracy, pinpoint every injury his legs have endured since birth, even if their presence is more invisible than not. Once he's taken the time to drink in the visage that is him in total, he sits on the edge of his bed. He will stare down at the Y-shaped stitching that marks his thoracic area and begin unlacing the stitches from the bottom up, piling up the threading in a neat, glistening pile on the bed beside him. His skin will begin to noticeably sag for the lack of structure and support. One side may briefly flop open and reveal the pulsing organs beneath. Were he not alone, this might be cause for concern. Most nights, it's not. Once all the threading has been unstitched, each hole freed and empty, he gently peels back two delicate flaps of his chest skin, spreads wide the rib cage, hinged now for ease, and carves off a tiny slivered piece of his beating heart. The knife causes no small amount of pain, but he's used to it now, having done this every night for several decades. It is an ache he's come to expect and relish. So the sensory experience has become folded into his nightly ceremony. If the pain does not come, he cannot sleep. If he cannot sleep, he will lie awake, one side of his face buried in the pillow as he stares at one wall or another until he becomes tired of being tired, stands up and goes through his morning routine several hours early. Deviation brings disappointment and a discombobulation to the day that's hard to shake until he goes through all of it again before bedtime. Tonight, the heart sliver clings to the quivering blade as he lays both on the nightstand before him. The heart will bleed a little extra, but soon he is sitting and the rib cage is clasped together again, the stitching in his chest sewn back down from top to bottom in a laborious process more akin to religious rite than chore. But he has done this so many nights, so many times, that it's nearly second nature to watch his own fingers thread the needle and send it swimming through each tiny hole down his chest until each is filled, tightened appropriately, threaded so that his insides cannot possibly find their way out. His fingers have become nimble over the years, his stitching a near work of art in its clarity, its clean lines, its ability to almost hide the knife work, delineating the Y-shaped incision, bisecting the upper half of his body. He neither understands nor questions how the skin holes have not decayed with use or weakened over the years, each threading pulled tight as the night before that and the night before that, and so on. He will rise from the bed and apply lotion to the rethreading. The holes from which it appears and disappears may chafe in the night and awaken him from the quiet nightmares, but he'd prefer to sleep through the night rather than face the prospect of lying in bed, vividly remembering the nightmares as only someone who knows the heart of their bedroom in the pitch black possibly can. The heart sliver will be deposited in the tiny varnished jewelry box, only to be gone the next morning. He no longer checks to see if this is true, simply knowing after all this time that it simply is. The jewelry box is made of bird's eye maple and is lined entirely in soft royal blue felt. There are no inscriptions on the box, no mentions of names or places or deities, only the soft pattern of the bird's eye maple beneath the varnish and the simple decorative border delineating the lid from the rest of the box. Despite the number of heart slivers placed inside it over the years, the jewelry box seems devoid of smell. It is amazingly devoid of stain. The box itself needs no dusting or polishing, as it seems to naturally repel any kind of substance that might block or mar its natural beauty in any way. There are no symbols or writing lining the inside, no inscriptions that might give a stranger's eye any clue as to the box's secrets. And as far as he knows, the box will hold heart slivers and nothing else. A gift from his uncle, the decorative box once held a prized watch for moments before the watch appeared back on the dresser's surface beside it in its normal place. The box had seemingly rejected the watch as occupant. There was nothing in the note from his uncle that explained this phenomenon, only that when he knew for sure that he could, he was to slowly whittle away at the beating beneath the surface of his chest and leave bits and pieces of it inside while he slept. No reason was given then, no explanation made clear. He had read the note and shook his head in disbelief, chortling at the absurdity and the absolute impossibility of the idea. He was young and stupid then. He does not laugh now. In this dream, he awakens in a forest, barefoot, pajama pants but no shirt. He can feel more than he can hear the totality of the nature around him like a deep, solitary buzz that gently shakes the entire earth and then wobbles one from the inside out. It's safe, somehow he knows this, but there is danger in its scope. Were it to turn on him, he would not be fast enough to outrun it, not strong enough to overpower it, not wise enough to speak its primal brain back into submission with any combination of silvery, slippery promises. There are branches and twigs and rocks and pine cones beneath each step he takes through the forested hills, but he feels none of these the way one should. They're not illusions, but his body doesn't register the pain they create. He walks without stumbling, without losing the sure-footedness of his footing, without bleeding or bruising, and on he walks. For days, for weeks, he's unsure of time the way he is unsure of his aloneness in the woods. Sun rises and sets several times within what feels like the span of an hour. Midnight black soaks through the trees, fills in the tiny gaps of sky above, once bright and blue with inky, sticky ichor that even starlight seems unable to penetrate. The forest is pitch black, and he is blinded to its shapes and its shadows, but the deep thrumming buzz of the nature comes in waves, lilting and undulating like an ocean angry at a coastline it cannot erode. The sound swarms and grows, builds up in his ears, and seems to make his head swell from the inside out. The pressure magnifying over and over until he shuts his eyes to hope the pain away. The hum subsides, seems to melt inside his brain and softly trickle out from each ear and down his shoulders, coating him in something thick and sticky. When his eyes open, he stands on the placid surface of a quiet ocean with no land in sight and a cloudless sky above him, around him. He will scan the entirety of the horizon and then find himself awake in his own bed. This is one of only 5 dreams he has ever had, one of only 5 he will ever have. He likes this dream the best out of the 5 as it makes him feel powerful. Not invincible, but not easily harmed either. Not power-hungry, but rather full of possibility despite the belief his brain is liquefied in the dream. He is a part of something bigger. He is that something bigger. Sometimes he will wake to daylight filling the single window of his bedroom. The stitching will ache as he moves, regardless of the lotion he rubbed all over it the night before. The skin holes will also have a soreness to them, as if they had been sewn and unsewn by an angry seamstress all night long, the needle and thread finding their way through every hole once, twice, 10 times while he slept. Once, early on, he had unlaced the skin in the morning light and held a single flap of his abdomen open, the sun striking against it and making funny shapes with its holes against the wall behind him. A small smile had crept across his face until the feeling of being watched washed over him. He turned back towards the window and noticed 2 of the neighborhood boys on bikes across the street. Mouths hung low in shock as they watched him hold his chest open in the light of day. He closed the flap immediately and drew both the blinds and the drapes. The warmth of the sun had felt nice on his insides. Strange, but nice. After that, he was more careful about unstitching himself or being bare-chested near the windows or the doors. For months after, the neighborhood kids would give him strange looks as he walked to get the paper or to his car. Mowing the lawn was the worst, however. He had nowhere to go, and the neighborhood kids would gather across the street, bikes circled up in a driveway, each of them watching him mow. It was disquieting at first, so many eyes watching him do the mundane chore, but eventually he started using more menacing power tools. He would stare at the kids as he used the electric pruner on his hedges or the trimmer around the lawn's edge. After a few weeks of that, the crowd thinned and dwindled down due to their being weirded out by his behavior. Their curiosity of him no longer outshined their fear. But that had been decades ago, back when the kids still played outside, back when you knew where every kid in the neighborhood was because all their bicycles lay piled up on a single driveway. Now, you were lucky if you saw just one of the neighborhood kids even once during the week. They don't play outside anymore. In this dream, he awakens in a bed, not his per se, but his all the same, according to dream logic. The mattress is both cool to the touch and provides a perfect amount of warmth to his skin. The pillows are firm, but give way when his head rolls across their surfaces, the cool fabric becoming one with the skin of his jaws, his cheeks, his arms and neck, the skin of his shoulders. It becomes hard to lift himself up from the bed, the prospect of perfect sleep within literal reach, and yet he knows he's not here to rest. There is something else that must be done here. He recognizes the room, but only because he has dreamed of it before, not because he's actually been inside it. He rises from the dream bed, the weight of him like nothing he's ever felt before. Each movement requires every ounce of thought and strength to move the shortest of spaces. The air is molasses. The clock ticks a normal speed, the second hand loudly echoing throughout the room. The birds outside the window move at a normal speed, chirp and peck as if nothing is wrong, but he is forced to move as if in super slow motion. That he moves forward toward a goal is of no point. That it takes so long to move, he forgets where he was going. That is the point, and also of no small amount of concern. He remembers, tries to move, forgets, remembers, moves, forgets. He repeats this dream trifecta over and over, making it halfway down the hallway stairs before realizing he's left something important up in the bedroom. He forgets what it is, remembers, moves towards the bedroom, and then forgets again. In the space of what feels like an hour, he's moved a total of 15 feet. This is one of only 5 dreams he has ever had, one of only 5 he will ever have. This is the dream he hates the most because it makes him feel the weakest, the most out of control, the least steady when he wakes. This dream is a sucker punch to the gut and often takes him several days to recover from. He would rather wake up exhausted and remembering nothing than have to experience this dream ever again. It ruins him. It is a ruiner. Tonight will be his last heart sliver. He doesn't know how he knows this, he simply knows that it's true. He knows that once it's been placed inside the box and he's stitched himself back up, both he and the heart sliver will disappear to some other when, to some other where. The feeling has been growing within him for weeks, a stain that keeps spreading until finally becoming impossible to ignore. This knowledge doesn't scare him, it doesn't shake him of any of his beliefs, it simply is. He will spend more time examining his scars tonight. It will be the last time, he believes, he will get to touch them and ruminate on their origin stories. It will be the last time he stares at himself in a mirror and lets a lifetime of memories play out inside his head, reminding him of who he is and how he got to this moment. He will stand naked and proud in front of that mirror, and he will see beyond his surface. He will stand and finally recognize that he is more than skin and bones and pulsating organs and scars and threaded holes. He will stare down at the Y-shaped stitching that marks his thoracic area and begin unlacing the stitches from the bottom up, piling up the threading in a neat, glistening pile on the bed beside him. His skin will begin to noticeably sag for the lack of structure and support. One side may briefly flop open and reveal the pulsing organs beneath. Were he not alone, this might be cause for concern. Most nights, it is not. Once all the threading has been unstitched, each hole freed and empty, he gently peels back 2 delicate flaps of his chest skin, spreads wide the rib cage, hinged now for ease, and carves off a tiny slivered piece of his beating heart. The knife causes no small amount of pain, but he's used to it now, having done this every night for several decades. It is an ache he's come to expect and relish. So the sensory experience has become folded into his nightly ceremony. If the pain does not come, he cannot sleep, though he doesn't believe he'll have trouble falling into dreams tonight. He places the heart sliver in the box. He squeezes the box inside his chest cavity, closes up his rib cage, stitches his skin back together, and leans back into his pillow. He stares at the ceiling, pondering the strange feeling inside his chest. Eventually, he falls asleep. In the morning, sunlight will spill in through the bedroom window that he's left open with blinds pulled. The breeze will set the drapes to swaying, and a single ornate wooden box will be left on the bed, a note inside for whomever may come across it first. A single white feather will be found beneath the box, unable to be blown away by the breeze. Outside, the sounds of children playing, the sound of car doors slamming, the sound of birds chirping. A dog barks from the next street over. The empty box will sit on the bed, gleaming in the sunlight. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.